Hello, welcome back. And Freddie, we got a lot to talk about. We're on episodes 13, 14, 15 for Neon Genesis Evangelion. And we're at a tipping point now. Would you agree?
It feels like that, yes.
Yeah,
I think episode 14 feels like a halfway point in an anime because you've got a recap episode.
There is a recap, yeah. But it's only half an episode of a recap, which is quite interesting. I'm going to quickly go back into episode 13, which has 3 names we've discovered. So the English title is either Angel Infiltration or Lilliputian Hitcher, and the Japanese version is Lilliputian Invader, which is a call to Gulliver's Travel. The Lilliputians being the very small guys, which is interesting because the Angel in this episode is a cloud of nanobots. How do you feel about this episode?
I really enjoyed this episode. I do recognise that it's essentially a vehicle for exposition.
Yep.
It goes into a lot of detail about the Magi, the Magi 3, the big supercomputer network.
Yep.
It goes into a lot of depth about that, what it is, its history, how it works, all of that stuff. It shows some of the pseudo Evas, where they go into where they're sort of the dummy piloting,
which are like telepathically controlled. They don't have like the sticks and levers of the machines. Interestingly, they tell them to use their mind and think about extending their arms.
But there is still a scene where Rei's still using the traditional controls. But that was quite interesting. It gives me something to think about. But yeah, I suppose I also very much enjoyed the fact that the episode focused on traditionally more side characters. Ritsuko, and I forget the name of the assistant. But
Maya.
Yeah.
Maya's her assistant.
But yeah, Shinji, Asuka, and Rei are all out of the picture because it's an invasion.
They're busy being naked in the pseudo Evas.
Well, it's the entry plugs that get ejected.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the episode for a lot of reasons, and it gives me a lot to think about. That's my overall view.
For me, I think there's a lot of triptych concepts that continue, like the groupings of 3. Throughout these 3 episodes, a constant quote kept playing in my head, and that quote is, God visits the sins of the father upon the children. So in this episode 13, we discover the Magi is actually the brain of Retsuko's mother, and she separated herself out into the scientist, the mother, and the woman, which is like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit Trinity concept. But there's a point where she comments, it's like, I'm getting older and you seem to be coming into your own. And it's like it's like a parent, she's caring for an elder parent that achievements are outlasting her. And because she doesn't have a physical body anymore, she's going to go on forever. And Retsuko is like a carer tending to an elderly mother. And that, like, the difficulties are different. But I found the notes inside the Magi to be quite interesting as well. There was some little conversational points when I was thinking about that. And yeah, the reveal in this is really interesting with the side characters. We get a little bit more relation to Retsuko. She's kind of been a tertiary character for quite a while. So it's interesting how these relationships of the individuals are becoming group dynamics. and I like that in the storytelling. And as you say, there is exposition put into the episode, but it's show not tell. It's not like we were talking in the earlier episodes where someone's literally listing the history. They're showing us. And I think that's really interesting. I think there's some really cool little scenes in this. And we do get a little bit of more Gendo screen time happening.
Yeah, we do. Especially in the later 2 episodes, yes.
Yeah. Because in episode 13, there's conversation about the Adam Project, and he alludes to knowing who the saboteur is, the Nerv facility. The one that's interesting with the angel attack is he prioritizes either one. He wants them launched to the surface. But
the other two,
the other two, like, they need to get up there, but it's not important as one, which is interesting.
It was interesting enough. I made a note of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also I'll quickly read from my note. So, over these 3 episodes, we get multiple characters' histories. And it makes me think of that quote before, God visits the sins of the father upon the children. These 3 episodes, for me, focus on interaction, relationships, both internally and externally of the characters, and we'll get through that, especially through part of episode 14 and definitely 15. And we see awareness growing, and we get a growing sense of awareness because we can now see how all the little plot points like the Eva project leads into the human instrumentality project, which leads into the dummy plug stuff, and we're getting all these little reveals and such, and I think it's making us see the previous 12 episodes to this and go, oh, now that bit is here and that bit, and we can start seeing the image. If I said the word triptych before, if no one's ever heard that before, it's a painting of 3 panels. So the center panel is the key bit, the left bit is one part of the story, the right part is the other, and the middle is like the objective completed image. In, I believe, and if someone wants to correct me, in the Greek Orthodox Church, a cryptic is an image between or behind 2 doors. So the 2 doors are like the halves, and it makes a revelation, and we're getting that now. Would you agree with that, and do you have anything that you want to tag on?
At the moment, I think my mind's a bit sort of like, it feels like they're adding a lot of strings to things.
Yeah.
Like strings of storylines and plots and ideas and possibilities. But because I've not reached an end point of them yet, they're half baked.
Okay.
And it could go in a lot of different directions.
So what theories are you baking?
So one of the things I have, I don't know, maybe this is me incorrectly jumping, but so there's something with the Magi system being, it was the first implemented test, I believe, of the, I've got, where is my, on my note, it's the Personality Transplant OS.
Yes.
Which they then use in the Evas.
Yes.
However, if you're using that as like the test case, you see when they're cutting it open, the Magi, the third Magi 3, I forget the name of it, but they all have names.
Melchior, Caspar,
it's
Balthazar.
Caspar that's the one that was left.
They're the names of the 3 kings from the Gifts of Christ.
I was unaware of that, but yeah, when Ritsuko's cutting into it, you do see an organic brain.
Yes.
It looks like in the center of what looks like an engine.
Mm-hmm.
However, hey ho, which is quite interesting for a number of reasons. The fact that for a computer, electronic thing, you then have an organic center.
Yeah. I found that sorry to interrupt. I found it interesting that these computers all look like absolutely huge engines, like pipes coming out of them, which is very 90s, where people like I built gaming PCs, and it's amazing how little technology runs a computer. But in the 90s, it's like expositionally, we need you to understand this is big and powerful, and all these the word process is a big word, so it needs a big machine.
But the thing that my mind sort of leapt to is if you're imagining that point A is a pilot, point B is the receptacle,
right?
And this was the first implemented test. Point B has an organic brain. In previous episodes, we've discussed the idea that Evas have an organic part to them.
Yeah.
However, you also see them being like disassembled and such, because there's a clip that I think is repeated in one of these episodes where you see Eva's one's head just being transported around, because I'm guessing its head's come off at some point. There wasn't any blood coming out of that, which is why it sort of leads into the idea that they might be machines, they might be partly organic. Or is it that they have a sort of mechanical body with like a angel human brain hybrid, which is what they're projecting into and is what's controlling them?
What backs you up in this as well, in this episode, when they're using the pseudo-Evas and they're being attacked by the nano machine, they eject the arm. Is it Rei's? They tell her to eject the arm, and the bodies look human, don't they?
Yeah,
they're
they look like
muscle structures.
Gigantic corpses.
Yeah,
that are sort of suspended by cables.
But as you say, when they fire off the arm, it's not like, gushing blood. The water's not changing red or anything like that, which is an interesting concept to think about.
One other thing I sort of saw in that episode is that there is a point which, if you subscribe to the notion that every scene has a purpose,
okay,
maybe true, maybe not, but if you were to take that every scene does have a purpose, what's the purpose of the fact that Rei, when she's she's asked how she feels in her sort of dummy Eva, it feels like they were doing a training exercise for them, but it's an actual more of an experiment for the scientists.
Yeah.
And she mentions that she feels like she's only got a right arm.
Yes.
And then they mention, can you move that right arm? And you see in the episode that they are suspended corpse-looking torsos. Yeah. One of the ideas that did come to my mind is, are these custom-made Evas? Because I'm guessing that's what they'd be.
Yeah.
Or are they, to use the word corpse again, are they like the corpse of Evas that we've seen? Because you do see that the one that moves its arm does have sort of like a left shoulder and upper arm. And in previous episodes, namely first and second episode, there is an Eva that loses its left arm at the elbow.
Yes, Shinji's Eva one.
And it's like, are they taking the organic parts? I'm using organic in a sort of air quotes here. Because, as you said, there's no blood when its arm comes off. But they're taking the alien human hybrid-y part of it and using it for another purpose.
That's interesting to think about.
I mean, in the idea of, they're recycling it.
It's good for the environment.
Purpose. Yeah. Take your deceased alien.
That would make a lot of sense, especially when they early on talk about generating Eva parts as if it's a synthetic human. So it then wonders how far something has to be human. Is another existential easy for you to say, question to ponder.
But that was something that definitely came to my mind, of the idea that, are they custom made or are they reusing things from... Yeah, it's like every time you see an Eva, if it's been damaged, is it a brand new Eva that they've... Because they can... They also show in one of the episodes, it might be this episode, they testing harmonics in different Evas, pilots in different Evas.
I think that's the next episode. Because
okay, well, taking information from the next episode, and they can, I guess it's transplant and inject, whatever it is that the pilots are synchronizing with, that they're harmonizing with. They can move them between Evas, which is again why I was saying maybe it's just a brain in an organic or.
But they have to synchronize, don't they? They talk about that. Which is interesting.
And they also mention the possibility of the Eva overriding the pilot.
And we've seen that happen with Unit 0 twice. Or we're about to see the second Unit 0.
Yeah, we're talking about the future here.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of things. It's like a whole can of worms. And at the moment, going back to the idea of cookies, it's cookie dough that's not been fully baked yet. It could be a cookie.
Should we?
But we don't know the shape of it yet.
On that point, should we tip into the second half of episode 14? Because the successfully override the nano machine, the restore the 3 Magi computers, which later Gendo hides. It never happened. You can look at the logs if you want, and they're like, we know you can.
He tries to hide.
Yeah. And they're like, we know. And they know because... do we reveal the saboteur?
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But they know because they've got someone there getting the information. And in the second half of episode 14... So the first half is like... It makes me think of a 1940s war movie news update, because you get like a black flashcard. You need someone playing the piano next to it. And then it's like, we had an angel attack. We were sent to annihilate the angel. This was covered up. An angel attacks. And we get actual angel names for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 8 angels.
The thing that I noticed very quickly was that, so the angel we see in episode 1 was referred to as the third angel.
Yes.
Which means there are 2 previous angels that have been noted. We'll get back to this and the sort of
who they
messing with my head it does later. Because episode 15 has something that they refer to as the first angel, but we'll get to that.
So like we've already seen retroactively through Misato's flashback that the second impact uncovered angels. So we know at least one Adam. Because we've already seen the fetus in a briefcase.
Yes.
But we've not seen the second. We've seen the third angel, Sashel, which is the one that Shinji beats. The thing that I found interesting in this is we get sound bites from Toji, the class representative. I need to put my teeth in today. And NPC cameraman. And the thing I like is that we kind of get the conversation from podcast 1 complete, that Toji wanted vengeance. And anyone who piloted an Eva was a problem. Then the other part we get, the class rep, she's not bothered. It's just like, here's my report. When we get cameraman, I refuse to call him Kensuke. He talks about Rei's sacrifice, and that she seems to be in a permanent state of transition, that She's always just like, oh, this is just to get to the next part. This is... the permanence doesn't exist, which I want to loop back to in a little bit. We get through the... I think this is the saboteur sending information to the other members of the UN/SEAL, who are the secret organization that Gendo communicates with. But we start this part, the episode, there's a lot of conspiracy theory, and we get the tests on the pilots coming up. The thing I found interesting in this test was only Rei and Shinji were encouraged to participate.
Yeah, it feels like it's been glossed over, the fact that it said that Asuka is... Yeah, it said that, she said she didn't want to. She could only pilot Eva 2, and then Asuka does sort of go, oh yeah, that is right.
But yeah, so there's a couple of monologues occur during this swap test. So Rei, when she goes into Eva 1, says she can feel a presence, and she's like, oh, is this Shinji talking to me? Which then goes to early conversations we've had about transference. And how much does the Eva know how much input is from the pilot? Does the Eva have like a memory bank, and that's why they have to like psychologically sync them up and get brain patterns and interact with them that way, which is very curious. But there's a moment when Rei's talking about it, and there's a lot of Hebrew language and mythology, like blood and clay analogies. She mentions something a lot like blood and clay or blood dust is the tale of creation of how God made man in the Bible. But also later on in Hebrew mythology, you get golems, which are clay beings with the words of their creator in their head. And then we get Shinji, who when he gets in Zero, is like, oh, this is Rei Ayanami. Now, the bit that intrigues me is when Rei realizes Shinji's presence, we get the image of infinite rays. When Shinji makes the realization, there is one Shinji. Is there anything you made of that, or do you just think it was cool artwork?
I mean, I did think it was very cool artwork.
Rei fan spotted.
I'm more of an Asuka fan. However, one of the things it made me think about was, it's what sort of prompted the idea forming in my head of each time you see the Eva, it might be a different Eva.
Okay.
Quite hard to explain, but I wasn't sure if it was also Rei sort of seeing herself through the eyes of an Eva, but sort of also projecting onto the Eva, being like, if she was somehow subconsciously aware that each time an Eva is different, is she also thinking each time she gets into the Eva, she's different?
Okay.
Which is different.
If I Uno reverse card your concept, what happens if every time it's the same Eva, but not the same pilot?
This is something that came up later, yes. It would, I guess, make sense as to the needing to resynchronize it. But again, at this point, it's still wet noodly theories
cookie
at the
dough,
moment.
not baked.
It's cookie dough. There's many things it could be.
Yeah. Freddie's putting it on the tray and turning on the oven. We'll come back to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of this conversation in episode 14 is about that. I think the saboteurs sending a 1940s war report to Seal, but we do get a couple of Gendo moments again. He's there. He's being interrogated, kind of, by second in command. It's like, how's Project Adam going? Are you not bothered about Unit 0 going on the rampage again? A question. Who's Unit 0 targeting, do you reckon?
So,
because Rei's just stood there giving no shits.
Well, yeah. So in the episode, it looks that like Rei's the target because she's at the very center of the fist that it's been, punching against the glass.
She stood behind like a bulkhead watching.
However, it's some of the characters, I forget who, says that it was targeting Ritsuko.
Ritsuko says,
was it her?
Yeah, it's her.
My mind, before she said that, my mind was thinking, maybe it's because, to do the fact it has the Rei's sort of mental imprint, because Shinji mentioned something about the mental imprint.
Yeah.
And it would be a bit strange if you see yourself as always having been, like, I guess you wouldn't see yourself as Rei in that situation, but it's somebody with Rei's mental imprint seeing Rei externally.
Yeah.
Very much an out-of-body experience. And historically, when people have had kind of an out-of-body experience, it's usually met with aggression. The idea I'm getting from this is the doppelganger idea of, if you see a perfect copy of yourself,
run.
You kill it.
Yeah.
No, you don't run. It's kill or be killed.
Well, there's several things with the doppelganger story, like trying to blend into one, or the aggression to... I think part that tale, psychologically, is we don't like seeing the worst of ourselves, and that's why when you comment on someone, you're like, I hate it when that person does that. And then if you actually reflect truthfully, you go, I do that. And I don't like seeing that negative side of myself, which is Jungian, where you've got like your good person and your bad person side, like the light and the dark, like a yin yang. But to truly exist, you need both halves and you integrate them, which is a lot of stuff that happens in this show, where like Shinji's development has been very interesting because he's starting to acknowledge some of his darker elements and go, that's who I am. Whereas Asuka, as we talked previously, when those are fetched up, she gets petty and childish, like in the next episode when she sees Mr. Kaji with Misato and smells Misato's perfume on him.
Smells like lavender.
It smells like lavender. Gets upset because she's still got that child possession concept of, oh, well, if you're using it, I can't have it, or I can't have it while you're using it. The notion, like, when a new kid comes to school and everyone's like, oh, they're cool. And it's like, oh, the old friend's like, oh, they don't like me anymore. It's like, love is potentially infinite. You can like multiple things at the same time, but not necessarily together. And this show does a lot of this. I'm sorry, digressing. I want to talk quickly about the end of episode 14, going back to Gendo, and his importance for Unit 0. He's actually not bothered about that unit, but he's very focused on Rei, and they talk about a special item. Can you say this? Because I'm going to say it really badly.
So, I made a sort of a retroactive note that I might have misremembered. I called it the Spear of Longinus.
Yes.
You've got written down the Spear of Longnius.
Which might also just be not hearing the guy right.
We should have probably looked it up beforehand, but we haven't, so we'll roll with it.
No. We'll be true to ourselves. Carry on.
Yeah, we both seem to pick up on different symbology of it.
Yeah.
You went down was it the Christian route?
There's a thing called the Spear of Destiny, which shares a name, and it's used a lot in fiction, especially in relation to the Third Reich, because there's a lot of cult worship under the facade of Hitler's soldiers, and lots of fiction likes to delve into that. It's also in Full Metal Alchemist, Conqueror of Shambhala, I believe. Someone could correct me if I've got that wrong. And you got them for Greek mythology.
Yeah, it was a weapon created to kill the Titans.
Yeah.
So, which again is very apt in this scenario, as it would be Eva's killing angels.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because the gods and angels is kind of the theme of Evangelion, which is man versus, I'm going to air quotes, God. If Adam is a god, because he's generating the angels. So that's like an underpinning theme of man versus God.
Yeah, I was getting the feeling, this is more of an overview of the 3 episodes, where it's like Gendo is playing God.
He's or Seola.
Yeah.
One of the two. He's clearly got intentions separate.
Yeah, I got the feeling that Gendo specifically is trying to play God, and he's trying to play God with an iron cage.
Yeah.
And that iron cage is not bending, and that's sort of reflected in the fact, I would say Rei is in the cage, and she is very much molded by him.
Yes.
But yeah.
And she carries this spear down a corridor as he's talking about the plans.
Yeah, it's very ominously.
Yeah. And the next episode's kind of similar to 14. It's like 2 episodes that start in different ways. It's like a very slow burner. We get like all the conversation about, marriages and stuff like this. The title of this episode is Lies and Silence, or in Japanese, Those Women Longed the Touch of Other Lips, so Kisses Were Invited. Short, succinct title. So there's a lot of like different tropes. We've got a romantic wedding thing. We've got political intrigue. We've got a spy movie. Do we reveal the saboteur now?
Might as well. I mean, if people haven't seen it,
Yeah. But if you're watching along and we've got to episode 15 and you're current during this, Kaji is not just a coward, he's also James Bond. He turns up in a Bond-style suit, but with some 80s arm rolls.
Yep.
And there's for Ritsuko and Misato, there's a conversation of like, why is everyone getting married? We're in our 30s.
No, they want to get married before they
the
turn
30s.
It's like a societal pressure.
Yeah. Which is like a really interesting dynamic of like social theory and people. So it's almost like a reverse of what they've been showing us, where Evangelion's been about individuals becoming groups. This is about groups pushing in individuals. Especially, and we get Shinji and Gendo as well.
We do. We have a scene where they go to the grave. Well, it's not a grave. It's a marker.
For them, for Shinji's mum.
Yes.
Finally, Shinji's mum reveal. Not been here the whole time. One of the things I noticed is she's in the 27 Club. She was 1977 to 2004.
I didn't pick up on that. I knew that she was like less than 30. I thought it was surprisingly young, but I never sort of looked into it further than that.
And Gendo supposedly threw everything to do with his mum away, and he comments the important stuff should be internalized.
So I took that to mean that he's not to say he's less precious with physical things, but that I can see the idea that if something is important to you, it's carried in your heart as much. You don't need to be like, the moment you lose all your pictures, you're not going to forget they ever existed. And there is an argument to be said that having physical reminders of things actually weakens your memory of it.
Yeah.
Which, okay, yeah, I sort of see it. It also makes you feel very kind of distant, aloof, and detached.
Yeah, definitely for Gendo, but it makes you think retroactively, how much is he sitting with that? Like, how much emotional baggage does he have behind that cool, calm, cold bucket of water on the feet exterior that we've seen previously? Like, it made me wonder, is Gendo a rational man or an emotional man? Especially when you consider what he did to get to Rei.
I don't recall having got there
hands.
Yet. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought you meant, like, in acquiring her.
Well, we get some interesting stuff with you saying about acquiring her, because we get Misato talking to Kaji, and this is her sins of the father is visited upon the children, but in her case, she's attracted to the man that reminds her of her father. And that's why she ran away, which links her to Shinji, because she also says, I'm a coward, in the same way Shinji comments about why he does what he does, because he's a coward.
She actually directly compares herself to Shinji.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very on the nose, that part,
very much. And then we cut to, how did you describe this with us talking about Rei previously? The Darth Rei in the back of the tube.
Rei Vader.
Rei Vader. So I'm going to ask you a question, because two things make me think this. Is that Rei in the tube?
Now, there's so far, this is again more cookie dough time. There's never been anything that would explicitly prove that it's not the same Rei. I get a distinct feeling it isn't the same Rei.
Okay.
Going back a few scenes, when Gendo was leaving the sort of funeral area for Shinji's mother, there is Shinji spots Rei in the helicopter.
Yes.
Or
in the large air vehicle.
Yeah. And for some reason, it might just be sort of how I was feeling during the episode, but it sort of made me revisit the idea of I wanted to kick Rei down those stairs again.
Interesting.
It kind of, I know it's probably not meant to be this way, but it felt as if it was her. It felt like she was almost showing Shinji that she is always by his father.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's that way. I think it's more the other way around. Gendo is...
Finish your thought, but I've got something I want to say.
This is why I'm like, it feels like Gendo is Iron Cage, Rei inside the Iron Cage.
Yeah.
He's making sure she is formed exactly as he wants her to be.
Interesting.
So he's not letting her go far. but yeah, my emotional sense, it just feels like she's trying to rub it in Shinji's face.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because do you remember something Shinji says to her earlier in the episode?
About being a mother?
You wring that cloth like a mother.
Yeah, and she starts blushing heavily at that, which...
Yeah.
But... Yeah.
So, before we finish, I'm going to posit some ideas. So, we've alluded to multiple Reis.
Yeah, there's nothing that explicitly shows that well, you know, there's the bit where you see multiple Reis in like it feels more like a fever dream.
Yeah.
But I guess that puts the idea in your head, and then there's nothing that ever explicitly proves it or disproves it.
So when we see characters in Evangelion in the entry plugs covered in fluid, we can see their colours, like Asuka's hair, Shinji's hair, Rei's hair. In the back to tube, air quotes, it's all one colour. So is the fluid all one colour, or does that character have a different hair colour? I will posit you with that concept.
Okay, well, cookie dough.
Cookie dough. So, we're going to end this episode with... Are we going to put these in the oven and come back next week?
Well, we'll probably see how it's looking next week.
Yeah. You guys can
final
be the
reveal
taste
of
testers.
this episode. Yeah. Final is Adam on the crucifix.
Yes.
With
a spear in his chest.
Yeah. Which...
And no legs.
Yeah. The thing that, again, I'm not going to really have time to discuss this, but he's referred to as the first angel.
Yes.
Given that the first angel we see in episode 1 and 2 is the third angel.
Yeah.
He's referred to as Adam, which is the name of the angel that was in the briefcase, the fetal angel.
Yeah. And now he's huge.
Yeah, is he the same angel? I doubt it. But then you've got two angels with the same name. Yeah, a lot of things, very cookie dough. This hasn't even been formed into a sort of vague shape yet.
We've not pounded it into a flat disc.
No.
Still in the batch.
But, yeah, so that is something that is definitely going to need some shaping. But it's all there. It's there now.
We're putting together the threads. We yet to make the item of clothing / bake the cookies. I've enjoyed watching Fred theory craft in front of me today.
I could go on for ages and ages, but we have a time limit.
Yeah.
So.
Join us next time for further Fred thoughts and hopefully some more revelations. It's been... These 3 episodes, I described them to Fred as, oh boy!
Yeah, they go deep.
They go places, they go hard.
Yeah, first in exposition, then in philosophy.
Very true. Well, Freddie, thank you for your time. We can have a quick chat later about further concepts. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.